Hello and welcome to The Pitch, home of the greatest ideas on the internet, except no substitute. Today's pitch is for The Matrix 4. The Matrix films were a mixed bag for me. The first one was excellent, but the sequels had awesome moments without really being a fantastic whole. But of the sequels, Reloaded is my favourite because of the highway scene. That is just pure action cinema, and I love it.
Now, straight here, go to the next bench. You hit a connecting tunnel to the 101.
Got it.
Sir, are you sure about this? The freeway, I mean. It's dangerous. In 14 years of operating, I have never seen...
Link, what did I tell you?
Yes, sir. I do, sir. Winslow Overpass. I'll be ready for you.
Good man.
You always told me to stay off the freeway.
Yes, that's true.
You said it was suicide.
Then let us hope that I was wrong.
Anyway, I feel that there's enough left to explore in this world that it deserves a sequel, as do the Wachowskis, because they're making Matrix 4 right now, and it's due to be released on the same day as John Wick 4. A battle of two Keanus. That should be interesting.
A titan against a titan!
Right, so where would I take the characters that survived the battle for Zion? Of our main three, we know that Trinity definitely died. We saw it happen on screen. No, Neo did not save her. Whereas Neo, we saw him fight, and we saw his body carried off by the machines, but we didn't necessarily see him die. Of course, it was strongly inferred, but we didn't definitely see it happen. That leaves us Morpheus, who is going to be our window back into the world. The human and machine truce has held for many years at this point, and in fact, they've started to cooperate and their lives have become more intertwined than they ever were before. We see Sentinels helping fix and maintain some of the machines that's required to keep Zion safe for everybody, and we also see that they are starting some projects to try to heal the surface so that they can repopulate it again. During this time, Morpheus and Niobe have settled down and have had some kids. But Morpheus has never truly accepted the fact that Neo died. The Oracle told him, we're told, after the Matrix 3 that Neo died, but he's never truly believed it. And that's fueled by the fact that many of the humans that they've saved since that time have talked about this sort of mysterious figure, super powerful, able to do amazing things, who helped guide them to where they needed to be so that they could release their mind from the Matrix. It's been almost a decade and a half since the last movie, and so Morpheus hasn't given up on the idea that Neo may still be out there somewhere, but he has started to focus on other things, and he works harder with rescuing people. Is rescuing the right word? They're not slaves anymore. They're free to leave if they want to. Morpheus concentrates more on helping people in the Matrix release themselves. But recently, there's been an up spike in the number of sightings of this possible Neo figure from people that have arrived at Zion. And this triggers Morpheus to want to go back into the Matrix and properly search for Neo one last time. And Niobe says that he really should give it up because Neo's clearly dead. But if it's an itch he really needs to scratch, then he can do it one last time. And as she says that, we cut to Neo's body. Neo's body is in a stasis pod in the Machine City. Think like Luke in Empire Strikes Back. But his mind is still connected to the Matrix. Around his stasis pod, there are lots of computers with monitors, keyboards, various different types of robots walking around. You get those little spidery ones, and you get some bigger ones that plug into things and change stuff, and they're all busy working, trying to maintain not only his stasis pod, but also some of the machines around it. And so we zoom into one of the screens, and we find ourselves in the Matrix, outside an old, grey, beaten up, old industrial building. Walking through some of the rubble, we can see an agent. Very recognizable as an agent, but somehow slightly different. We'll give him a slightly different cut of suit from the others. And he walks into a doorway, and as we follow him through that door, we are presented with a space that makes no sense according to physics.
It's bigger on the inside.
Is it? I noticed.
Inside, we have a kind of Japanesey courtyard. It's got sand areas. It's got lovely plants that are absolutely pristine. It has butterflies flying around. The space is bigger than it appears from the outside. The sun is shining down. It's a completely different light to that kind of greenish grey of the Matrix. In the middle of this courtyard, we see Neo, who is sitting there with a book floating just in front of him. He turns the page and he looks up to talk to the agent, but he isn't in any way shocked or surprised. Clearly, he knows this agent and knows him well. The agent then tells Neo that the architect has requested his help as there is a virus starting to get out of hand in one part of the city. We can use this scene to have a complete exposition dump. We can catch the viewer up on anything that has been going on. Essentially, Neo's body was very badly injured, partly because of the damage from Agent Smith in the Matrix, but also because of the fight with Bane, who of course was possessed. Is that the best way to put it? Possessed by Agent Smith in the real world. So the machines agreed to put his body into stasis to try and heal it over time. Meanwhile, he would stay in the Matrix. They would give him a little section of it where he could do whatever he wanted, and he would help them maintain the order, if you like. Because normally we were told that the Matrix gets rebooted each time there is an anomaly. But of course, this time, Neo made a different choice. And the Matrix wasn't rebooted. And so like an old PC, we start to get little glitches here and there. However, Neo's thing is that he's always trying to get the computers and the programs to go beyond their basic programming. Especially if they're a sentient program, he wants them to try to push forward and push on from the boundaries that they're set within the computer world. He talks to this agent as though he were a friend. And he asks him, have you ever considered doing something different from just being a messenger boy? And the agent replies, this is my programming, this is my purpose. If I stopped doing this, if I did something else, would I still have any purpose? His job is to relay a message to Neo, and that's it. That's what he does. We might even get a flashback of when the architect, the Oracle, and Neo came to this agreement. And we might even start to explore why Neo hasn't reached out or asked the Oracle to reach out to the humans on his behalf. Anyway, conversation over, and Neo does his Superman thing. He flies off into the air and starts aiming towards the virus because Neo has become more powerful than he was even in the sequels. He can sense the things that are going on in the Matrix. Even without needing to be told, he can feel where there is something wrong, and so he aims straight for it. He finds the virus, and it's kind of like a crack house. It's again a shoddy building, not very well looked after. There's programs all over the place. Some of them are human programs, sort of human avatars. Some of them are actual programs. But when he gets there, there are agents already fighting. Now, the agents are very emotionless, but they do kind of seem happy or kind of relieved when Neo arrives. One of them then gets assimilated by the virus, and Neo lands to start fighting with the other two. Once they clear out the first part and the first few cases, they then enter into the building, and one of the programs starts coughing really badly, and he collapses to the ground, and as he collapses to the ground, he then transforms into another copy of the virus, because the virus isn't as bad as the Smith virus, so it takes a little while to infect most programs, and that means, though, that there's lots of potential threats, but we don't really know where the threat is coming from. Anyway, Neo helps the agents, and really once Neo arrives, it's all over. One by one, he burns through the virus and clears out the building. The agents then take the programs away, and we don't really know what's done with them, although they do tell Neo that they will be helped. Possibly rewritten. We're not quite sure. In this fight, though, we have a great opportunity to show that Neo has learnt even more tricks than he used to know. He can now ghost through people and walls. He can push people away without touching them. He can stop bullets, move weapons in the air. He can do all sorts of things that he maybe hasn't shown before. In essence, we're kind of making Neo a god, which potentially causes a problem, because if he's that powerful, what could ever be a threat to him? And we'll cover that later on. Once the virus is eradicated and the agents and Neo walk out, we cut and we see another program far away with a telescope, pair of binoculars, something like that, watching and making notes. Once everything's been solved, he then runs off, makes a phone call, and we enter the phone and we do the shot where we come out of the Matrix back into the real world. There we see a massive robot who is just like a giant octopus, and around him there are hundreds of monitors and keyboards and interfaces, and he's just got arms coming out of him from all directions, all of them operating different keyboards and doing different things with different results, and the monitors constantly are changing to show different things that are going on in the Matrix. One of the screens, the main one, obviously then flicks to show us Neo and the agent standing outside the house. Neo then flies off into the air and heads out across the Matrix, but he's not going home yet. We hear the robot acknowledge the new information that the program has sent to it, and on the screen it then says tracking program initiated. Either Neo is blocking them or they just can't keep up with him. One way or another, though, they can't follow him through the Matrix. The robot then says it doesn't matter that we can't track him. There is another way to find a solution to the problem of the anomaly. Remember that Neo is referred to as the anomaly by the programs? Yeah? Cool. The camera then turns to another screen where it sees several agents standing in front of a large grand building. We zoom into the screen and we're back into the Matrix. The agents that we saw outside the grand building enter. They go through a lot of corridors and rooms, and eventually they end up in a massive ornate room that has a ginormous digital desk in the middle, and sat at that desk is the architect. One of the agents walks over to a desk by a window where there's an old phone. He picks it up, puts it to his ear, says, "We're in." We cut to the robot with all the tentacle arms. A spike goes into a port, and we cut back and the agent transforms into a bookish looking guy, but who's wearing all red. The architect looks genuinely surprised, which I think would be the first time we'd ever seen him have any emotion, and he immediately says, "What are you doing here? You shouldn't be here. Follow your programming." To which the bookish man, all dressed in red, says, "I am following my programming. My job is to make the Matrix as efficient as possible. You know this already. And since we've had your peace with the humans, the Matrix is not running as efficiently as it should be. So the only course of action is for me to take command, take your role for a short time, fix things, and then allow you back to run it again, because obviously you are the best program for running the Matrix at its most efficient level. This is important because it would be the cold hard logic of a program who is solely designed to make things efficient. The architect stops for a second, thinks about it, agrees, stands up from his desk, moves to one side, walks to the edge of the room where there is a door, opens it, goes in the room and closes the door again, leaving the new efficiency program to come in and sit behind the desk and do what it needs to do. Neo, still flying, lands and goes to see the Oracle. He can sense that something is not quite right. He's been feeling it for a while. He feels like there are agents that are trying to follow him whenever he goes somewhere, and he feels like he's being watched. The Oracle naturally knows what's happening, and so her and Neo talk about the efficiency program and what it's trying to do. She suggests that Neo might need some help, and so they call Morpheus. When Morpheus enters the room, he sees Neo, and we immediately can tell how hurt he is. He's hurt at the Oracle because she lied to him and she told him that Neo was dead. And he's hurt at Neo because it's been years and Neo hasn't contacted them. But that's not entirely Neo's fault, because this is when we learn that Neo doesn't really know how long it's been in the real world. The Matrix kind of mushes days together and they sort of turn into just one ever-long cycle of days and nights rather than it feeling like specific days and years. And so he doesn't know that it's been 15 odd years. Neo explains to Morpheus that after Trinity had died in his arms, he really just wanted to be left alone, and anyway he didn't have a lot of choice because the machines were trying to save his body, and without that he couldn't really contact the humans except through the Oracle. But as he said, he just wanted the time on his own, and he needed that space and that opportunity to think through what he was doing and what he wanted to achieve. Morpheus is a bright guy, he can understand that, but at the same time he feels very hurt. He has to put that to one side because the Oracle explains to Morpheus what is going on, and Morpheus can very quickly see how the efficiency program can threaten the peace, can threaten Zion, can threaten humans in general. Now we build up to our finale, which is going to go a little bit Game of Death. Ultimately, Morpheus calls for more backup because they need to make a large diversion, because the efficiency program is slowly taking more and more control of the Matrix, but he's not trying to assimilate it. It's not like Agent Smith. What he's just doing is getting programs to work for him to help his goal. So there's more and more agents that are now standing outside the large, grand sort of control building, waiting for Neo and anybody else that might come along to try and stop him. Of course, this means that we have a massive fight where we have Neo, as many humans as we have time to build up in the script, and also many agents fighting against all of the agents that have turned and are working for the efficiency program. But that fight is just a distraction. Neo makes straight for the door, and Morpheus goes with him. Now, Neo had wanted to do this on his own because obviously he can do a lot of things that other people can't do. So it would have left him more free, which is why Morpheus must go with him from a story point of view. Because if Neo can do all of these things, well, then he just sifts straight through the walls, goes straight through the program, done, end of story. Whereas if Morpheus insists on going with him, it limits what Neo can do because he must also protect his friend. We can have any number of cool fight sequences now, whilst Neo and Morpheus fight their way to the main control room. But when we get there, the efficiency program is not surprised at all. In fact, he's quite happy because the Oracle told Morpheus that there are only 2 programs that know about Neo properly. One knows where his mind is in the Matrix, and one knows where his body is. The agent that looked a bit strange at the beginning is the program that knows where Neo's home is and where Neo is in the Matrix, and the Oracle is the program who knows where his body is kept. So these 2 don't know what the other one knows, deliberately so that you can't get him at both ends, hopefully making him more safe. This means that the efficiency program has not managed to find where the body is being kept. But that doesn't matter, because the body can't live without the mind, remember? And so now that Neo is right in front of him, the efficiency program can kill his mind and solve that problem. But the efficiency program is not a combat program. Instead, he has bodyguards who are going to take him out for him. Now, we're going to use some of the ideas that were touched on with the Merovingian. So we can either do callbacks, where we can have like the ghost twins, maybe not the same people, but again, ghosts and werewolves and vampires, for example. Or we can look into mythology and try to come up with some newer ideas. For example, you could have a Medusa. Or we could have a Hydra, maybe 7 people who are all identical. And if you kill one of them, then 2 more grow out of that body. We'd have some designers try and come up with different concepts, and we'd work through it until we got 3 or 4 that we really liked. But ultimately, these give Neo and Morpheus a different type of challenge. Naturally, though, they fight their way through the bodyguards, and that leaves us face to face with the efficiency program. But that's the moment the architect chooses to come back out of the little room that he was waiting in, and he tells Neo to stop before he kills the efficiency program. You see, you can't kill the efficiency program. He's a vital part of the Matrix's operating system. If you kill him, all sorts of different subroutines and functions will stop working properly, and that will cause the death of possibly hundreds of thousands of humans. Not only in the Matrix, but if those programs aren't necessarily running properly, then it might affect some of the programs that are running in Zion as well. It seems as though we are stuck in a loop. Either we're in the loop where the anomaly gets reborn and then the Matrix gets rebooted again and over and over and over that way, like they presented in the original films, or we have this new loop where the efficiency program will sooner or later decide that the best way to make the Matrix more efficient is to take control and to try and eliminate Neo. You see, the efficiency program is not inherently evil. He's not something that's not working properly. He's doing literally what he is programmed to do. And it takes the Oracle to come up with a solution. She suggests that the architect rewrites the efficiency program so that it has to answer to her, and she can act as its moral conscience before it can do anything. Everyone agrees, which means the efficiency program is forced to agree, especially because this is less efficient, and so naturally he hates the idea, and a new peace is achieved. But we end on a cliffhanger because as this new piece has been worked out, the battle outside is finally called off. We are then told that there is a new anomaly that has been born. The Oracle speaks to Neo and Morpheus quietly, and she tells them that they need to find the new Neo before the robots do, because clearly there are programs who want to change how the system is working currently. And that is our setup for the Matrix 5. So that's my pitch for the Matrix 4. Tell me in the comments below how you would do things differently. Did you like my ideas? Would you tweak anything? Would you change it? Maybe you don't like that we're leaving it on a cliffhanger? Let me know. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And I'll see you next time on The Pitch.